Hey y'all, welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing why my partner and I don't share money. For anyone who doesn't know, we call my partner Tbone to protect his identity, just like a superhero. And he and I have been together for 8 years. We've been living together for 6, but we don't share any bank accounts, any credit cards, or any financial assets like a house or a car. And today I'm going to tell you why. But before we get into the details, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy getting a peek into how other couples manage their money. So if you follow us on Instagram, you know that every single month, Tbone and I do what I call a money date. We use exercises from my couples money workbook, which I'll link to in the description, that help us look at each other's spending, talk through our financial goals, and we review all of our savings and investments. And we show each other everything. So I know how much he's got invested, he knows how much I've got invested. There's a lot of financial transparency in my relationship. But we don't share money. And if you're looking around for voices in the financial space that openly talk about how they don't share money with their long-term partners or their married spouses, they're few and far between. A big part of the reason Tbone and I don't share money is we come from different financial backgrounds and we have different views on money today. While we are very much so largely in sync with our finances, the emotional side of things does get a little different. And that is largely because of our backgrounds. Tbone grew up here in Texas in a fairly small town in a 2-parent household in a low cost of living area. Both of his parents worked for his entire life. He did not ever have a job in high school, and his parents were able to pay for his undergrad college experience out of pocket. I do want to acknowledge that he went to a Texas state school, which is significantly cheaper than a lot of other colleges. And cost of living was and is very low in his hometown. His parents purchased their house for $99,000. Every time I say that out loud, as someone who is currently trying to buy her first home in this super hot market, I'm like, oh, it's just like a straight shot to the heart, you know? But all of this to say, Tbone grew up in a cocoon of financial stability. And it wasn't until he went to law school that he had to take on his first student loans. He ultimately paid off $68,000 in student loan debt from that 1 year of law school that he attended. And he's now currently in a different grad program, set to graduate in May, we're very proud, which he has been paying for himself out of pocket, along with some scholarships and grants that he got. Meanwhile, I grew up in a single-parent household. I have 2 siblings in a very high cost of living area on the Northeast coast. My parents divorced when I was 2, and there was some financial abuse and financial infidelity on my father's behalf, and divorce in general is just like a weirdly expensive process. So my family dealt with the ramifications of that for many years. We were on food stamps for about 6 years during my childhood, which is how my mom put food on the table. My mom also put herself through grad school to get her master's, and she graduated when I was maybe 8. She used student loans to pay for her program, and she carried some credit card debt as well. Now, I do want to clarify, we were by no means poor. I have never experienced poverty in my life. I've never experienced housing instability. I've never experienced food instability, but I did grow up in a financially unstable household. And then personally, this financial instability I experienced as a child did continue well into my 20s. I didn't earn over $20,000 a year after taxes until I was 27. I had to pay off my student loans by myself. I've never received financial aid or assistance from my mother as an adult. I've always worked part-time jobs. I have never had a full-time salaried job. I've never had health care or a 401k through employment. Meanwhile, Tbone has never worked in the gig economy, to my knowledge, has always had full-time work. He's always had workplace benefits, and he does come from a family where it's not unusual for his parents to write him a $100 check just because. Suffice it to say, Tbone and I come from different financial backgrounds, and that has very much so informed how we feel about money today and how we choose to behave around money. Traditional financial advice for couples is to combine finances 100%, especially after marriage. And this piece of advice is still going hard in our financial world today. Here's a tweet from February 8th, 2022. I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. If you are married, you should have combined finances. Absolutely no nuance in that tweet. And here is Rachel Cruz, daughter of Dave Ramsey, with her hot take on what couples should do with their finances. Keeping your bank account separate is one of the most effective ways to wreck your financial life, and maybe even your marriage. When you stand in front of God, your family, friends, and the love of your life, and someone says, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," you're married. That declaration means you are inseparable. You are one. You go from living your own life to being unified with another person. You're now in a lifelong committed relationship, and it's no longer only about you. You're not two business partners coming into a deal. You're one unit. If you believe that in all other areas of life, why would you draw the line at money? Oh, Rachel, tell me you can't empathize with the fact that people live differently than you without telling me you can't empathize with the fact that people live differently than you. When we zoom out and look at the financial truths of our world today, there's a lot of reasons people wouldn't want to share finances 100%. And for some people, sharing finances 100% can be downright dangerous. According to a study from Sensei, roughly 60% of millennial women report experiencing financial abuse in their romantic relationships. And the same number of people reported experiencing financial infidelity, where their partners lied to them about their spending or financial history. And younger generations are dealing with this as well. 30% of Gen Z say that they've experienced warning signs of financial abuse in their romantic relationships. Financial abuse can take many forms, all of them very dangerous. And financial abuse can start young. This is not something that is only affecting people 30 plus. The Junior Achievement Report interviewed Gen Z people who are as young as 13 years old. Controlling someone's money is the single most effective way to take away their power and their autonomy. Without money, it's impossible to do pretty much anything in our world. If you don't have a credit card you're allowed to use, if you're not allowed to retain cash, and if you don't have access to a bank account, you can't go to the grocery store. You can't call an Uber. You can't buy yourself clothing. You can't rent yourself a hotel room for the night to get away from your abusive partner. And having 100% joint finances much more easily leads to this abuse. Of course, I'm not saying that joining finances is 100% guaranteed to end in financial abuse. I know that joint finances work for a lot of people, and I'm genuinely thrilled for those couples. But it's important that people know that things like joint bank accounts have a legal background behind it. For example, if you do open a joint bank account with someone, both of your names are on there. So you are both legal owners of the account and legally entitled to whatever is in the bank account. And it really does not matter who put the money there. So for example, if you're married and you put $900 into a savings account and your husband puts $100 in, legally speaking, that $1,000 belongs to both of you. Your husband can take all $1,000 out, even though he only put $100 in, and there's no legal recourse for you to take to say, hey, I want that money back, because it is your money. Similarly, if you share a credit card with someone, you are both legally responsible for debt that either one of you might rack up individually. Now, I'm not experiencing financial abuse in my relationship, and neither is Tbone. But it is something I'm mindful of given my mother experienced it and given so many other women in the United States are experiencing it. So just personally, I feel so much more comfortable keeping my finances totally separate from Tbone. I like being 100% in control. I like being the one who is liable for myself. Additionally, for Tbone and I, we just have different short-term goals with our finances. I'm trying to buy a house this year. He's not particularly interested in home ownership. That's a really big difference, right? I'm trying to accumulate all this cash for my down payment, my closing costs, my renovation costs. That's not something Tbone wants or is currently saving for. If we had 100% joint finances, this would probably be a really big argument that we were having consistently over should we be using joint money for an asset I only want to buy. But honestly, again, zooming out, I really just wanted to make this video so that other couples out there know you can do money however you want to do money in your relationship. Just because people are tweeting or Facebooking or TikToking whatever about joint finances doesn't mean that you need to be someone with joint finances. Honestly, this is a really big problem in the financial world where people find a tactic or a thing that works for them and then say, this is the way all people need to be doing this thing. And that's just something I fundamentally disagree with. So if you're watching this video and there are things I'm saying that resonate with you, awesome. Take that and run with it. Or if you're watching this video and you're like, #cannot relate, awesome, totally fine. We need a more diverse representation of experiences and voices in the world of personal finance. And we need our educators and experts to be more flexible with the advice that they are giving and to understand not everyone comes from the same background, has access to the same assets or tools that they, the person giving the advice, might have. I've been in a happy and healthy relationship for 8 years. Clearly, something we are doing is working. And just because I'm not doing things the same way Rachel Cruz is doing things doesn't make my relationship less than her relationship. If money is something you and your boo have been struggling with, definitely check out our workbook in the description. It's chock full of exercises that walk you through not only how to manage money as a couple, but how to sit down and discuss money in a healthy and respectful way. There's exercises for you each to identify your different financial values, for you to explain to each other your different financial backgrounds and why you might be feeling some type of way about a part of your financial life, and how to move forward together. There's also information in there if you do decide you want to open joint accounts together on how to do that and how to make that work for you. So again, figuring out what's best for you as a couple and running with that, not trying to adhere to what someone else is doing as a couple. All right, y'all, I hope that was enough hot goss for you this week. Make sure to give us a like and a subscribe before leaving.